Hello friends, and welcome to my channel, Grounded in Grace. I am so happy that you are here. If you are brand new to my channel, welcome. My name is Kristen Freeman, and I am a teacher with a bachelor's degree in education from Liberty University, but I am also a homeschooling mom to my own 2 children. So my oldest is 5. She is getting ready to be in 1st grade. We did kindergarten a little bit early, and my youngest one is getting ready to be 3. So we've just started some hands-on pre-K type stuff. As you can probably hear, there's a storm going on in the background, so I apologize in advance for a little bit of the glitchy audio that you might be hearing. Hopefully we can smooth it all out in editing, but if not, I do make apologies for the rolls of thunder that you're hearing going on behind me. So today we're going to be talking about all things homeschooling. As a teacher, I pride myself in wanting my child to have the best possible education. So we're going to be talking about what does homeschooling look like, why homeschooling works, how homeschooling works, all of it, the ultimate beginner's guide to homeschooling. So I want this to come across as if I am sitting across from you, giving you my best tips, tricks, and advice as a teacher and as a mom. So if you are ready, go ahead and let's dive in together. All right, tip number one. Tip number 1 is know your legal laws. So this one is one that I am going to preface by saying I am not a lawyer. I cannot give you legal advice, but what I will tell you is you do want to be above board in your homeschooling. You don't want to be flying under the radar. You don't want to be trying to trick anybody. You do want to do things the right way, right? Your why for your child is that you want the best for them. And part of the best for them is making sure that you are doing things above board and legally. So for this one, I cannot tell you how to get started. I do not have an ABC checklist that you can follow in order to make sure you're following all the legal laws because they vary from state to state. So for some states, all you have to do is submit a letter of intent, and that's it. For other states, you might have to keep a portfolio of your child's work and growth and development, as well as submitting standardized testing at the end of the year. Some states require you to have things signed off by a certified teacher. So these vary from every state. So please consult with your own state's homeschooling laws before just diving in. Do not assume that you can just pull your kid out of school and start homeschooling. That is not how it works. There are legal requirements so that they know your child is getting an education, although it is outside of the public school system. So that is tip number 1. The best place to get started with that one is hslda.org. If you take a look there, they have a lot of the legal requirements written down for you by state so you can kind of click through and see what you need to do to get started. All right, number 2, what does homeschooling really look like? And this one was a bit of a culture shock for me. So as I mentioned before, I was a classroom teacher and I also taught online. So I had typical classes of, 7, 8, 10, 15, 20 kids, depending on where I was at and what I was teaching. And so going from classes that are like this to one child is actually very, very difficult and very, very different. So if you have a background in education, do not expect that it is going to be the same. And if you do not have a background in education, do not expect things to be as picture perfect as you might be doing them in your head. So we'll get down a little bit later to the pros and the cons of homeschooling your child. But for now, just know that it's not going to look like what you probably think. So my big idea in my head as I was starting out, we're going to have school at home. School is going to be at home. We're going to have structure. We're going to have routine. We're going to have rigidity. And we're going to get this done by this time every day in this order. And guess what? It did not work that way. My child did learn how to read. My child did learn how to do math. My child did learn handwriting, all the things that you would expect her to learn in a kindergarten year. But she did it her own way. And that is really what homeschooling looks like. It is being able to take a curriculum and adapt it to your child's learning style and your child's learning needs. Everybody is not going to learn the same way. And when you have a classroom of 20 kids, you're having to cater that lesson to 20 different abilities, to 20 different personalities. But when you have one, you get to cater to your child's specific learning needs. And that is a really amazing thing about homeschooling. So let's talk about what worked and what did not work in our family. And this may be different for yours. I am not a proponent of fly by the seat of your pants, piece together what you want homeschooling. I think a curriculum is a really good place to start, especially if you do not have any prior experience. It will guide you to where you need to be. It will help you to figure out what you should be doing each day. What are your objectives? What are the learning goals? What things should your child know? That way you're not having to do all the research and figure it out and be like, I think my kid's where they're supposed to be. No, find those curriculums that fit your family's learning style and follow them through so that your child is achieving milestones, is achieving goals, even if they're doing it at a little bit of a slower pace or a faster pace. That still gives you that outline, that structure, that kind of box for you to figure out where should we be going. The next tip underneath of that is supplement. That's the beauty of homeschooling. You have that curriculum where you're following, but you also have flexibility, right? If your child gets to a certain person when you're reading in your textbook and they're like, wow, I am really, really fascinated by Abraham Lincoln. You have the ability as a homeschooling parent to dive into the life of Abraham Lincoln, right? You can get a unit study on him. You can read some books about him. You can watch some videos and write a report, whatever you would like to do. You have that flexibility to bend and create the curriculum that interests your child while still making sure that they're covering those core academic subjects, right? You want to make sure they are reading. You want to make sure they are learning math skills. You want to make sure that they are learning handwriting. Those are core academic skills that your child needs, and they should be hitting developmental milestones as they progress. So a curriculum allows you to make sure they're doing that while still giving you the flexibility to add in those interests and those fun things. So that's kind of how we structure our homeschooling. We used Abeka last year, solely Abeka's kindergarten program. I think they have a really, really, really great phonics program. I love the way they introduce special sounds, the way they introduce letters, the way they introduce blending, all of it. I really, really like that. And as a teacher, I will tell you, phonics-based programs are the best for reading. So there are several different phonics-based programs. There is All About Reading. There is The Logic of Reading. There is Abeka. Bob Jones is pretty phonics-based as well. There are lots of different ways of getting there. The Good and the Beautiful is a mix of sight words and phonics-based, so there are a little bit of both. There's also Teaching Your Child to Read in 100 Days as a kind of a cheaper alternative to like strict structured homeschooling. So there are lots of different ways to go about it, but I would highly recommend looking into a phonics-based program. That is going to be in the best interest of your child if you are looking to raise a really strong reader. So I will give you that tip and trick. All right. Number 3, the third thing is find your why. Find your why. This might look different for every person listening to my video. When my husband and I were dating and we were talking about like, what does the future look like and what do we want to do? I was not a huge advocate of homeschooling. I'm like, I don't like the fact that they're at home, that they're not getting the social skills, all the things that you hear in society. I had really bought those ideas and I was really not a big advocate of homeschooling. Like if we have another option, I would really like my kid to go to Christian school. Our why is faith-based. We did not want our child attending public school. We did not want them getting all of the influences and things and hearing all the things that they would be hearing. And so our why was faith-based. Yours might not be faith-based. You may want a different teaching style for your child. You might have, and your child might have individualized learning needs that you're trying to meet in a different way. Your child may have really strong interest in one subject and you're trying to push them. It might be a sports thing. Your child needs more flexibility to travel, but know your why. That why is going to guide you during some really, really tough days. So know this is what I'm doing. This is why I'm doing it, because I want this outcome for my child. Write it down. Stick it to the front of your homeschooling cart, your textbook, your Bible, whatever you grab first thing in the morning to start that homeschooling day. Have your why. I am doing this because of this. This is the outcome that I want for my child. Then figure out your teaching style. If you are already an educator, or if you have a background in education, you probably already know your teaching style. You know what you like, you know what you don't like, you know what works for you, you know what doesn't work for you. If you are a mom, this might take a little bit of figuring out. What do I like? Do I like the routine, structure, paper? We're going to pull this out. We're going to sit at the table. We're going to do this. Do I like a more hands-on approach? Do I like a mix? What is my teaching style? And then here's a little bit of the tricky part. What is my child's learning style? And sometimes these two do not mesh. So I am a structured box person. So this is my real life example here. I like to write down my lesson plans. I like to know what I'm doing. But I also like to incorporate fun, interactive aspects of learning. When I taught, we would do STEM projects to go along with history. We would do, different book report styles and where they had to create different things. We would do, create a preposition, superhero, and write the prepositions around them and how could they use them, like different things to really incorporate that creative aspect. That is something that I enjoyed doing. My daughter is a very out-of-the-box learner. She does not like to sit. She does not like to sit down for long periods of time and look at something or read. She gets very bored very quickly. But if you can get her doing something, she will stay engaged. So we use that creative aspect over here that is mine and the hands-on aspect of her learning, and that is how we can mesh so that we're not doing that bumping of heads all day long, because that does not make learning fun. That does not make homeschooling fun. So that's kind of my tip here is find your child's learning style, find your teaching style, and figure out how you can meet in the middle. The most things that you can take off your plate, the fights that you can remove, those are really going to help. All right, last thing that we're going to talk about is let's talk curriculum. So I told you earlier, I really highly recommend getting a curriculum. This is where most people freeze up, and I get it. It is a lot. When you look at ordering something and you look at that price tag, it's like, whoa, wow. You know what? We can do this another way, but honestly, you probably can't do it as well as a curriculum. And I'm not saying you have to buy the entire bundle package and you have to do everything. And like, child, sit down. It says you got 45 minutes of homework. No. You're homeschooling. That's where your flexibility is going to come in. But you do want to have some structure, especially if you are new. But guess what? Some of those readers, they are really, really boring. Abeka, I love Abeka. I mentioned them earlier. I love their phonics. I love their reading program. The fact that it can teach reading so well and build really strong readers, writers, and spellers. But their reading books can be really, really boring. We don't do them. We do our own. We're going to be reading Roald Dahl. We're going to be reading The Magic Tree House. We're going to be reading Elephant and Piggy. We're going to be bringing all of those really fun things that make reading fun and exciting, because I don't want to make reading boring to my child. I want to teach them to love characters and settings and books and to dive into a world of magic, right? Reading brings you on a new adventure every time you open it. And that is what I want for them. So we're not going to be burying ourselves down in readers. We're not doing it. We're going to change it. But guess what? We are going to use the outlined structure that Abeka gives us for that phonics. So that is where your flexibility is going to come in. You're going to have the ability to pick and choose through that curriculum. This works really well for us. This does not. So there are some really great options, and I can't tell you what's going to work best for your family. If you are looking for a faith-based curriculum, we have personally used Bob Jones. For preschool, we have used Abeka for kindergarten, and we are looking to use probably a Becca and a mix of the good and the beautiful as well for first grade. So you can have that variety, right? You can change it up some and find what is working for you. But I would really recommend looking at a curriculum, picking and choosing what you think is going to work, and then editing that to suit your family's needs. You really want to make sure that you are meeting your learning goals, but you're also hitting those developmental milestones and objectives so that your child is progressing accurately and adequately throughout every stage of their learning. All right, before we say goodbye, last tip that I have for you besides curriculum, and this is a quick one, is figure out your own rhythm. Your schedule might change every single day, but know what works for you. Get up, do your devotions, grab your cup of coffee, figure out your schedule for the day, write out your weekly plans, schedule in some breaks. Kids can't sit and learn for 2 hours straight. They need some time to move, to stretch, to grow. Even if it's just a quick brain break, make sure you're scheduling in those breaks. Find your morning routine, find your rhythm. We personally start our day with breakfast. We do a little bit of playtime, then we dive into school, making sure we get done our reading and handwriting. Those are our hardest subjects, so we get those done first. Take a little bit of a break. We get some math in later, and this year we're going to be adding in science and social studies as well. My daughter's really big into nature right now, so we're going to be adding in some nature studies and things from the good and the beautiful, as well as adding in some history, learning about maybe some famous Americans this upcoming year. So we're going to be doing some fun things, but find your rhythm. And that is all that I have for you today. So if you liked this video, if you found it helpful in any way, go ahead and like and subscribe to my channel. I would love to have you come and join us. We do all things motherhood, homeschooling, family life here. So we've got lots more coming your way, and I would love to have you join us. Thank you so much for choosing to spend your time with me today. I hope you have a wonderful and a blessed day wherever you are, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.